everyone, welcome back to Story Behind the Story. I'm your host, Courtney Rowe, and today I'm joined by Samantha, who did a story about impeachment in 1998 versus now with the case with Donald Trump. So I would like to know, what made you want to cover this story in the first place?
So there's an interesting story that goes along with that. I was about to sit down in social justice class with Rachel, who's our editor-in-chief, and she showed me a notification on her phone, and it said Pelosi has launched an official impeachment inquiry into Trump. And we just looked at each other and we were like, so it begins. And so I knew that I wanted to write a story about the impeachment inquiry, but I didn't know what angle to cover it from. And I was thinking, you know, when was the last impeachment that happened? And that was Clinton in 1998 into 1999, which was around the time that most college students were born. I was actually born in the month that Clinton's impeachment inquiry started. And I was like, what was campus feeling about that time? And so I went into our Missourian archives and I dug up old news stories and old opinion pieces and submitted columns about how students on campus felt around that time and what they thought of that impeachment inquiry and then the trial process. And so I wanted to compare and contrast that to now.
Heck yeah. I know it's like not necessarily the most ideal situation that we want to be in, but for journalists, it's like, yes, we love that hot controversy. So I'm excited. Like, I loved reading your story. But can you just give us a little rundown on what it's about?
Yeah, so I did a brief overview of what Trump's impeachment inquiry is about, what they're investigating, what happened with Clinton's inquiry, and then I compared and contrasted what students felt about what was going on with Clinton's impeachment to how students feel about Trump's impeachment inquiry right now.
So why do you think that we as Americans should be concerned about this? Like, what would this mean for us?
We should care about this because our executive branch is supposed to represent our entire country, and we want them to be behaving in an ethical and legal way. And so we should care about Trump's actions, because if they were illegal, then that not only threatens the structure of our democracy, that also reflects really poorly on us as a nation. Yeah. And so people should be following issues like this and should know what's happening with their representatives. So that way either they can make decisions responsibly when it comes election time, or they can be in the know if it happens that an executive member is removed from office.
Most definitely. So can you tell us a little bit about that impeachment case with Clinton so that we have some background on that?
So there was several attempted investigations into Clinton's behavior around the time because the country was really politically polarized at the time. There was a Republican-led Congress. Both houses of Congress were Republican-led. And so they were investigating some of his behaviors, and one of them was a sexual harassment allegation from somebody within the White House. And while they were investigating that, they questioned Monica Lewinsky about her alleged relationship with Clinton. And at the time, both of them denied any existence of a relationship, and he denied existence of the relationship under oath. And later, when Monica Lewinsky eventually said, yes, there was a relationship, they filed articles of impeachment against Clinton because he lied under oath to Congress. And so they filed articles for perjury and obstruction of justice.
And this all happened in 1998. And I know you said you got to go into the Missourian archives and dig up some of the stories that were happening at that time, where they interviewed students about their thoughts on the impeachment. So what did you find? I
found some interesting things. Before the inquiry started, there was a lot of people who were thinking that it wasn't actually going to be a big deal, that it should be a private matter between him and his family, especially since a huge topic of the Clinton campaign was reestablishing family values. But as the inquiry went on, more people kind of wanted the process to just be over in one side or another. So some people were saying they should just drop it, it should be between them. Some people were saying he should resign, and some people were saying, I just want to stop hearing about it. And so generally, the feeling that I found also in 2019 later was that people just don't like the chaos of impeachment inquiries and impeachment trials, because it really destabilizes people's feeling of trust in our government.
Definitely establishes a sense of panic because nobody knows who they can trust anymore. But now in 2019, knowing what we do now, do you personally feel as though that he should have been impeached?
Clinton or Trump?
Clinton.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to say because I wasn't there when it happened, but I think that it would have gone differently if it had happened now. I think that he wouldn't have been impeached because sex scandals are so blasé now, and so he probably would have been upfront about it in the first place. But because he lied under oath, like that's a pretty cut and dry. I agree that with the Senate in not removing him from office, but I think it was a fair impeachment filing.
Yeah, for sure. So 2019, now we're dealing with Trump. What do students have to say about this matter?
So a lot of students are really hesitant to talk about it, and they really just don't want to touch it. The Trump administration has been so controversial in so many levels, and a lot of students just want to not think about the president for a day of their life. But there are some students, the really politically engaged students, who are really divided on this. There are a lot of Republican students who think that it's a witch hunt, that it's unfounded, that there's no point in the impeachment inquiry, and that Democrats are just upset that Trump won the election and they're trying to remove him from office. And the Democrats are really divided between people who think that this is a really bad political move and that it's gonna reflect poorly back on the Democrats, because when Clinton was impeached, his approval ratings actually went up after his impeachment trial, because people were thinking that the Republicans were just out to get him. And so a lot of Democrats are worried that the same thing is going to happen now.
For sure.
Where it's going to reflect poorly on Democrats and that they were just out to get Trump. And then there are some Democrats who are thinking he did something wrong, or he might have done something wrong, and the American people deserve to find out. And so there's just a lot of division among within parties and between the parties about what's the right thing to do.
For sure. Now kind of tying this all to our school, Northwest, you got to speak to political science professor Kimberly Casey, and she knows her stuff. She knows what she's talking about. She's definitely an opinionated lady. Love her. What did she have to say about all of this?
So when I didn't include it in the story, but I asked her about where she was at when the Clinton impeachment happened. And she wasn't teaching political science at the time, and she was in a really conservative community in Oklahoma. And her community really didn't like Clinton. And so she felt that her perception of the whole proceeding, although she felt what he did was immoral and wrong, she felt kind of skewed by her community. But now that she's in a political science setting where there's so much diversity of opinion, she really wants to hear from people about what they think, and I think she provided some good insight on what her students are feeling in their classes.
I know she tried to engage her classroom in this discussion. How did that go for her?
It didn't go very well. Really, students were really tight-lipped about it, and I think the class specifically that she was talking about was one that more students take as a general education course, and those students, they just don't want to touch this issue.
Do you think there's a reason behind that?
I think because it's so fraught and so divisive, and I think people are tired of arguing.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot about approval. People are afraid to say the wrong thing. So we can tell that people are very hesitant about the upcoming election, especially with all of this new controversy and everything going on. So what do you personally feel is the best way to prepare for the election and allow students to engage in their civic duties?
I think the best way to go about it is to look at things for the issues and the things that you really care about that will actually become bills and actually enact change in our country. I think it's so easy to get caught up in the glitz and the glam and the personalities and what kind of person that you would want to be friends with or that you would actually know in person, rather than whether that person stands for what you believe in. And so I think it's best to really dig into the issues and see who aligns with what you feel about strong policy issues, and that's the best way to go about finding who you want to vote for.
People are very quick to choose one side over another just because that's what they've been told, that's what they've been raised to believe. And I think, having students really look into the issues, really find what it means to them, I think that is one of the best ways to kind of go about elections and politics in general. Do you personally feel like we should kind of do as Kimberly Casey tried to do and engage in healthy conversations about politics starting at a younger age?
I think we should, and I think we should normalize taking our conversations offline. I think online discussion feels so non-constructive right now because you're hiding behind that wall, and rather than thinking about what somebody else is saying, you're just thinking about what you're going to say next to kind of tear down their point of view. And I think when you're having civil discussions with people that you have mutual trust and respect with, it's so much easier to see that other person as a human and to find that common ground or to find new information that might lead you to revise your point of view.
I stand by that completely, 100%. What do you think is in store for the future of America?
I have no idea. I'm really along for the ride. When I was graduating high school, I just turned 18 before Trump got elected, and that was the first election that I voted in. And as soon as he got elected, I was like, all bets are off. It feels like everything about the system has changed. But I think the one thing that hasn't changed is people wanting what's best for our country.
For sure.
And I really think that if people get past the personalities in the show of politics and think about what really is best for your neighbor, I think we'll turn out all right.
Yes, for sure. I feel like it's definitely becoming more of a show now. I definitely agree with that. And thank you all so much for watching. So be sure to tune in. See you guys later.